And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Erthacast. This is the fourth time we're doing this now. It seems to get better and better every single time. I'm really happy about that. So thanks for tuning in, and let's get started right away. So joining me today, of course, is Linus, the Game Master of Ertha, and our guest, the COO of Catheon Gaming, Lewis Grafton. Hello, gentlemen. Hello, Lewis. It's so nice to have you on. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. So could you introduce yourself to us and our viewers about who you are and what you're doing here today?
Yeah, sure thing, and thanks for having me. I'm Lewis, COO at Catheon Gaming. Catheon Gaming is gaming Web3 gaming ecosystem. We're building out a platform with a number of games. Our first game is Solchix, well-known RPG game that we've been building on Solana. We've got 25 game titles across the platform that we're bringing together, and hoping to bring quite a few of those to market as live games over the next few months.
Awesome to have you here again. And all right, Linus, the boss of the ERTHA Metaverse, how are you doing today? How are you feeling while following these recent events in crypto?
Yeah, these 2 days are a bit crazy, so welcome everyone joining into our Erthacast, and welcome everyone from Catheon Gaming, and hi Lewis.
All right, awesome. So talking about Catheon Gaming, so how's the mood there for these last few days? Like, as I'm sure our viewers know, FTX, FTT, a lot of movement happening in the market, crazy stuff. So what you guys been thinking over there? What's going on? Has this affected you at all? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's still taking it all in, just watching what's playing out in the market. Luckily, we aren't directly impacted at all as a company. We don't have any assets on FTX. We weren't holding any FTT, so that's certainly some relief. I mean, I think for us in particular, like with Solchix, which was kind of the game that started this off for us. Building on Solana and being a big part of the Solana ecosystem, I think, everyone in the ecosystem is holding their breath a little bit at the moment. Certainly, waiting to see what happens. Obviously, like Solana is, not the same as FTX, but the level of influence and involvement that FTX, SBF, Alameda have had in the ecosystem, especially in the early days, certainly puts a little bit of a question mark around at least like the very short term pricing movements.
Yeah, exactly. And like behind the scenes, we were talking about the meme we tweeted out here at Ertha, because we used the BSC chain. It was, of course, a joke, but do you really think it's possible for like Solana, as big as crypto as Solana, to like actually die? Because personally, I don't think so. Like, of course, these price movements aren't good for it. It may take a long time to recover to previous levels. But still, like, what do you think about the potential of Solana long term? Do you still think it's a fine decision to have a project based on Solana?
Yeah, I mean, I think Solana will survive this. They started in a bear, so in the relatively short space of time, that's kind of two bear markets for them. The long term is really about the community and the strength of the ecosystem, and I would say it's definitely one of the more thriving ecosystems and communities, even in the bear market. We've seen that on the NFT side particularly, and a lot of other aspects. So I think if the community can hold together, we'll come through it fine. And from a tech perspective and everything else, Solana has certainly its own unique selling points and differentiation, which I think is a strength.
Yeah, and, so Lenas, do you think that competitor chains, and I'm using the word competitor kind of liberally, but still, like we use BSC, right? So do you think other chains existing like Solana, Ethereum help us, or do you think it's better for well, not necessarily better, but do you think a crypto space where only one main blockchain exists is possible, or should there always be multiple chains?
Yeah, I do believe that we have to have diversity inside crypto, and it really, makes me like scared to see big companies such as FTX to actually break down or even get bought like by Binance or other companies that might control the majority stake of all the market. So I do believe it's really good to have different people working on different projects on different blockchains that could potentially have some more ideas, more impact to our all crypto community, so that everyone has some good things they want to implement, and it's not always possible to do that when you're fixed inside of a specific blockchain. And I do believe that we need Solana to exist. We need more diversity here, and I hope that it still continues to be one of the most thriving ecosystems there.
Yeah, exactly. Because CZ Binance even said like FTX dying or bankrupting isn't good for Binance at all. Like it gives so much doubt into the whole crypto space, since it's an exchange and Binance is an exchange, that really Binance doesn't benefit from a competitor dying at all. It basically just loses a good a possible partner for cooperation. It loses people's trust, because people have been every single exchange is affected by this, and not only exchanges, a lot of projects. People aren't trusting centralized exchanges as much as they were before, and especially with things like this year, like Celsius happening as well. Really, people's trust is being taken away from any sort of centralized exchange, and that's not really good for anybody. Even though we're for decentralization, there still needs to be some big players that make the market really possible to exist in a state that it currently exists, right? So Lewis, what are your thoughts about that? Do you agree, like we need to cooperate, like competing projects and exchanges and even games, they still need to cooperate in a sense to make this space available and friendly to everyone, basically?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think CZ had some comments, I think himself, around we do all want everyone to thrive in this ecosystem, right? Like the the level of adoption in crypto right now is still relatively so low that I think our collective goal should be about growing the pie, right, rather than kind of fighting over market share of the existing market size. And that's true at like the exchanges level, is true at the gaming level as well, right? If we can get more gamers and players playing Web3 games, that's a win for everyone.
Exactly.
And I mean, like trust is just so important. And it's a real shame, right? Because the centralized exchanges are probably amongst the, at least like recently amongst the most trusted companies in the space from a centralized perspective, and that's where a lot of the most conservative institutional money was starting to enter through. You look at the cap table on FTX, and there's a bunch of blue chip names. There's like a Canadian pension fund, etc. So the guys who were like starting to dip their toes in the water have been burnt. FTX probably had one of the cleanest or cleaner reputations amongst the exchanges, or at least their closeness to US government and regulators, gave them that very prominent, very prominent position in front of like the public's and the regulators' eyes of like what the industry is about. So yeah, for that trust to be broken, that's a big setback for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Because it puts a doubt into everyone's minds, right? Because if FTX can fail and so spectacularly, like so quickly, then like what else can fail? People are thinking, and especially things like banks, like big institutions that, well, in a sense, we want to join crypto, right? We want like huge firms to join crypto and invest in crypto to push for global adoption and like mass adoption. It really makes those types of investments less and less possible. Things like this happening because they aren't looking for a risky investment, right? They aren't looking for an uncertain investment. They're looking for a solid, clear-cut reason to invest for the benefits of this and that and this. And what's been happening over this past year is just this trust that was built over 2020, 2021, whatever limited amount of trust there was, it's really being taken away this past year with Celsius, with Luna, with this now happening. So it's really interesting to see of course, personally, I think crypto will recover from this and hopefully recover even better than it was in like 2021 highs and things like that. But the question is, how long is it going to take? Because people, retail investors, retail customers, usually forget very quickly. But banks and big institutions like big VCs, they don't forget quickly. It's their job, to be smart and to really think out the possibilities. So it really makes me think like how much time now needs to pass for us to get back on our feet to where this whole space is moving forward faster and quicker than it has been moving forward before. So because this is quite a huge setback. So there was like a speculation about Binance doing this on purpose, right? Like CZ tweeting a few days before the whole crash that they're not really trusting in FTT and they're going to be unloading their assets and things like that. And a lot of people have been speculating that it was, orchestrated for Binance to, create a bank run on FTX and then buy them out, bail them out, and somehow get bigger. But now with the deal falling through, I really feel like this really wasn't their intention. It was just a very bad coincidence to just made it look that way. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this, Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly there was some bad blood between CC and SBF, and I mean when the Alameda balance sheet got leaked, and I mean I don't know if you want to be a real conspiracy theorist, you might say that Binance had something to do with that. But I think
maybe
that that opened up the hole where people could see actually Alameda is pretty vulnerable here. They look like they could be overextended, leveraged up on FTT. And so I think obviously CZ wanted to cause a bit of pain, but I personally I think it was more of like a warning shot at SBF of kind of pull your head in and stop doing whatever he was doing to kind of throw Binance under the bus. I think, I mean, obviously if user funds were in proper custody and segregated within FTX, it shouldn't have been possible for there to be a bank run, right? If you're backed 1-to-1, then there shouldn't be any problem with drawing funds. And I think this is what has shocked everyone, right? Is that the implication seems to be that the funds weren't there when you would have expected them to be. And you've gone from, okay, there's a bit of pain on the Alameda side, to like, okay, the entirety of FTX is underwater, which is yeah, I'd be surprised if CZ had known that, but it's possible.
Yeah, well, I think he could have guessed at least and made a good guess. Because if he's wrong, well, it's a bit of backlash, but then nothing really happens and they move on. And if he's right, well, this kind of happens since like SBF really did build. It seems at least the allegation is from the allegations and from the data I've seen. That's not, of course, confirmed, but it seems to be real. Is that really this house of cards that they built at FTX was really just bound to fall anyway? Like, it doesn't matter if CZ tweeted there or not. Like, eventually it was just in such a bad position that I don't think they really just could have done anything. Like, Alameda was just leveraged out of their mind to what it looks like. Like, they were just, in Q2 this year, they just completely, burned through any possible funds they had, and then FTX kind of had to bail them out from what I've seen. And then just FTX was left in this huge hole that, well, since the market stayed this way this whole year, they just couldn't recover from. A bull run that brought Bitcoin to 100K never came, and new users never came, and just the liquidity only dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped, and then they just couldn't do anything. Like, I'm not sure. Like, have you seen the data? Maybe Linus, have you like looked at some of this, or what do you think?
Yeah, I did, and it's a bit surprising at how much effect does Twitter and message from CZ can have on such profound way, So I don't think he actually knew that could happen, because if he did it, that's really an evil move, to do, and not exactly beneficial to Binance itself, But to see such like clean history being wiped out as a company it's a bit scary. I understand people who start to lose trust, into entire market, and it's really bad for us because well, I don't know exactly. I think if for example traditional banks had to put their assets, one to one, we might see, crazy stuff happening. And in our crypto part, when companies do have to have, every asset that their users lend them, it's the standard we have to live in. But I doubt that every other company out there actually can do that.
Yeah, exactly. And that just really makes it scary again for like new people and new investors to come in, because, well, the market hates uncertainty, right? Like you just can't do anything about it. If the market is uncertain, well, new money, new people, new investors just aren't going to come, So so I really do think in a sense that CZ is being honest. I'm not entirely sure whether that tweet was just a complete accident that just spiraled things out of control, or whether he knew that this was a possibility to happen. I think in a sense, like, people seem to be praising him even more now, although it was for a few days it was a bit scary for because when they offered to buy out FTX, it really seemed that people thought, oh, okay, this was like a huge business move, he's like this super villain, but like the market being in this state, I think like changed a lot of people's minds now that well, nobody actually wanted this, and like, what can you do? So I think Binance does gain something from this in the long run, but like in the long run, right? Because for now, for the foreseeable future, like for a few weeks, or what do you think, Lewis?
I feel like it's probably a net loss for Binance here. I don't think. I mean, obviously FTX was like one of the bigger competitors, but Binance was already like the largest, already had a dominant position. So I don't think they gain that much from FTX going under.
True. Yeah, actually.
And then I think the near term, kind of the medium term backlash, which is going to play out over a long time, is loss of trust in the centralized exchanges, particularly the non-US regulated ones, and particularly like more hostility towards those exchanges from various governments. And Binance already has had its own troubles with regulators in different places, and so to have that even more scrutiny now, I think will hurt. Um, at the same time, I think like at an industry level, and maybe this is a silver lining, but like if you had players like FTX doing what it looks like they were doing, maybe we weren't ready for mass adoption yet. And it is better to have a cleansing of sorts. Obviously, like I think industry standards need to be higher. People need to hold like exchanges to a higher bar in terms of transparency and disclosure. And obviously like custody standards. So if it means that we get set back multiple years of progress in order to come back with more user protection and more transparency, then that could be a better thing in the long term.
Yeah, but going back to like being a little bit optimistic, I think that once, like things start taking off again, at first it'll look like, oh, it's just another, small rally or whatever. Like the price is going, oh, wow, Bitcoin is going back to like 20,000. But like for some of those times, we're actually going to be at the start of a new bull run. And once a bull run comes, like things like this will be so forgotten. It's going to be like, it's going to be like it never happened. In some people's minds, well, in most of people's minds actually, because most people will come in the bull run. They won't know what happened this year, or like what happened with Luna or whatever. Just like people that joined this past bull run had no idea what happened with like Mt. Gox, BitConnect, and things like that. Those things were said to be. Back then, they might have looked even scarier than this currently, because currently we have like a lot of adoption as it is already, like a lot of institutions joining us, a lot of resources have went into crypto, so it's much more solid than it was back then when Mt. Gox happened and when BitConnect, so back then people thought the same thing, that this is gonna set crypto back like years, maybe it's over, it's like regulation is gonna come in and there's just gonna be nothing left with crypto because, well, nobody's going to be able to do anything and whatever. But then a bull run came, new people joined, everyone forgot everything, then greed took over, and then everyone started investing at the top, and then the cycle continues, so
yeah, it doesn't mean we make the same mistakes and have the same blow-ups every cycle.
It's interesting.
I don't know, my optimism is like Binance is doing their proof of reserves. I think 3 or 4 other exchanges have said they will too. I saw something very recently. Binance has like 69 billion of assets.
Just a few hours ago, I think they posted. They pushed a new update and they posted like a huge post about showing how much of each asset they actually own. But they did kind of show only they didn't show the full picture, because they showed how many assets they have, but not how many assets they actually owe, to users. So it could be a situation, I doubt it, but it could be a situation of them like showing, oh yeah, we have all of this money, but then actually owing much more. I don't think they're insolvent, but they might not have all the money, I think they're, at least at this stage, they're pretty immune to a bank run, I would say, especially with like 60 whatever billion. But still, like, they didn't show the full picture. So until they do, I'm still kind of a little bit skeptical, at least. I get why they're doing it, of course. And I don't expect them to just, lay out the full picture in 2 days. But still, like, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes, and especially other crypto exchanges joining in on the fun, of like putting back trust into the communities. It's going to be interesting to see, because it's a little bit hard to imagine an actual true decentralized system. A non-regulated system where everyone comes together and like makes it fair to, like, so to say, fair for everybody, like crypto exchanges actually being fair in a completely unregulated system. So it's going to be interesting to see whether we can somehow actually pull that off, or this whole space is just going to need some black on white regulation from governments and like centralized exchange licenses requiring some sort of audit every certain amount of time periods and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I think that CZ and Binance will have to use this moment to actually, bring more clarity up on what is happening on their side, and I do believe that they have it all okay there, and it might be the case where other ones have to go and be more transparent than it was today. So that might be a step to the better for everyone in crypto space. But one thing I wanted to ask Luz about, does this event that happened here in the last few days, does this change anything in the way you plan what will happen, in the upcoming few months with Catheon Gaming?
I don't think it changes too much. I mean, and on the blockchain side, we've had already quite an intentional approach about being, more blockchain agnostic. We recently launched our Catheon token on the Polygon network, which was basically to get the token. You could swap the Archix token, which is on Solana, over to Polygon. So that was kind of already a step in terms of being more multi-chain in that sense. I expect we'll be launching games on other chains as well, and I guess maybe from a risk aversion perspective, it's not putting all your eggs in one basket with your choice of blockchain. Although I mean, there's a bit of friction, but it's not too hard to actually move chain if you need to, which is reassuring as well. I kind of think of blockchains a little bit like telco or internet providers as like a utility that ideally you can kind of switch provider when you need to. I mean, certainly like in terms of like asset custody and understanding like counterparty risk, it's always a good reminder not to concentrate your risk too much. On the gaming side generally, like I think this is obviously like going to be pretty deep bear market territory for crypto as a whole, but I think the thesis around Web3 gaming was never really about people coming in necessarily for like crypto in the pure sense, and more as an extension of gaming as an experience. And so I don't think it's as catastrophic, I guess, on the Web3 gaming side. And because we haven't had that kind of mass adoption yet on the gaming side either, that you haven't had too many people, I guess, burnt by this experience, so they can come in with like relatively fresh eyes. Whether the headlines that are coming out now make people that much more reluctant to do anything, and there's already that like a little bit of pushback around NFTs and gaming, etc. Probably around the edges, it hurts a bit.
Yeah, because gamers have been quite slow to adopt to crypto and NFTs, especially because like crypto games that are like play to earn or play and earn are usually just played by investors, not the traditional gamers in a sense where kids that play like Fortnite, or like adults that play like maybe Dota or Counter-Strike, like they haven't yet come into this space. And I guess you did mention a silver lining, like not the mass, the majority of people who are going to be joining GameFi over the next, like, let's say 5 to 10 years haven't been burned yet. So maybe it's some sort of a blessing in disguise for us as a whole crypto community to go through these crashes and these, like catastrophes, so to say, to, really just fix what we need to fix and get ready for the massive, because every single thing that's new goes through this, right? Because like let's say the internet is probably like arguably the most popular product in the world, right? Like it's just so, well, some countries are still like adopting it, but still, like, the internet is just so massive, so global. But 20 years ago, it wasn't. Like, only 20 years ago, it was not like completely global. It was in the minds of some like 40, 50-year-old people back then, it was just a fad. It was just nothing, to be interested in. It's just something that some young people, wasted their time on, and that they really had no real reason to, use. But now the internet, like, my grandmother uses the internet, like, everyone uses the internet. So like, this can happen the same way with crypto, because like crypto is a tool, right? Like I'm not saying like everything that's currently here in crypto will survive. Like, most of these tokens, like altcoins that do the same thing, like someone's gonna win that battle and someone's gonna lose that battle, and the crypto space is gonna evolve. But eventually, right, it really may become something as common as like as a tool like the internet. So it's really going to be interesting to see, like these gamers and maybe people who haven't even been born yet, and like things like people like that just coming into the space, and that's when the mass adoption is going to happen. At least that's what I think. So yeah. Any thoughts to that, either Linus or Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, like, when I think about how does mass adoption occur, or what does it look like, at first it's probably going to be like one or two just smash hit games, right? You just hit the right formula and it takes off. And you look at like successful games in the Web2 space, and to be considered successful, you're talking like probably tens of millions of players, which is already like probably 10x or more the total market of people playing Web3 games right now. So
much more, I think. Yeah.
I mean, optimistically, there's maybe like 1 million players if you look at kind of like
very, very optimistically
all-time high Axie Infinity players or something. And haircut it for bots, etc. But I mean, like, you get one really good game that just kind of gets the Web3 elements just right, that it's kind of done natively, there's not too much friction. I imagine it looks a little bit like how Reddit did their digital collectible NFTs. It's like really just easing people into the concept, selling them on the actual kind of the use case, rather than selling it as like pitching it like a financial asset, which you see a lot with other NFT projects. And like I said, it's like one game getting Web 2 level success metrics increases the industry size 10x or more overnight.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you mentioned Reddit NFTs, because it's a topic I've been researching personally quite a lot. It's quite actually awesome to see how Reddit, you wouldn't expect Reddit to like go into crypto and NFTs, right? But they did, and in just a few months, they like made, in this bear market, they made such a huge thing. They blew those NFTs up so much. It's actually incredible, because first of all, they just sprinkled in some free NFTs for its users. Like if you get a certain amount of like karma, if you do a certain amount of engagement on the website, you get a free NFT. And that's what really brought people who didn't know what the hell that is. They started researching it, and like hundreds of thousands of users started looking into this, and it blew up in just a few months. So I think that's going to be like a way for some games and some projects to go forward in the future, is to make a really solid flow of free NFTs, or like, well, not exactly free, you still have to like perform an action or do something, but basically by engaging with a content, they reward you with NFTs and crypto, and then that really brings people into what you want them to do, like use those Reddit NFTs as avatars and things like that. And you actually mentioned a very good point. Like they didn't, sell this as an investment. Like they just said, "Oh, here's a cool NFT. Just a cool picture. You can, like style your avatar with. You can, put on a hat from the NFT, and you can, put on pants from the NFT, and just pay $10. Like just that's like a low price to just, flex that you spent $10 on an NFT. Like whatever. Like what's $10 these days? So people bought them." And then they blew up, and then the free NFTs, got people interested into what the hell even is this. And here we are, like those NFTs are now the top collections are 1,000 times more expensive. Maybe not even not so after this crash, but like just a few weeks ago, like the most popular collection was I think at a floor price of like 2 Ethereum. So that was like nearly $3,000. Meanwhile, that like avatar was purchased for $12. So crazy things happening over there. And Linus, do you own some Reddit NFTs, or have you like looked into them?
I did. It's amazing actually how they made it look like really easy to get it and seamless experience inside the app. So that's good. I think that the more like big companies come into the space and actually do this to their own audiences in a way that is seamless and friction free is the way to raise our crypto awareness in the world, So I do hope more and more companies do that, and as we see, Meta is really trying hard to get into a metaverse space here, but they have their own way to capitalize on it, and it's not looking that great so far. But I do believe that the whole concept on how they're doing it on the way that the future relies on it. I think it's kind of a bold move, but might be into the right way,
Yeah, I mean, I think like putting Meta's virtual world to one side, because I mean, obviously the graphics haven't been that impressive and people don't quite get it. But I've heard stuff around like, more better native integration of like NFTs on Instagram, potentially like creation and marketplace for NFTs on Instagram. Twitter, obviously, I think probably about to do a bunch of crypto stuff as well. Like when you've got basically all of the big social platforms where there are like, billions of users trying different ways to kind of, push this technology. I think that's actually very exciting for like the crypto industry as a whole, that it's really warming people up to it and showing them, it's not so scary. Similar to like the way Reddit did it, is kind of like, it walks like an NFT, it talks like an NFT, but it's, we're not using that word. It's like, you got this product feature that hopefully is done in a way that people enjoy using it, and then you kind of click of like, oh, this is actually crypto basically, even though it wasn't maybe obvious in the way that it was presented.
That's
Exactly.
how I think it should be in gaming also. Like if you own an asset, you don't particularly need to say that it's an NFT if it has all the NFT properties. If you can own it and it's yours, it makes sense to, even for like big game studios, to actually go there. Well, I think so, but depends on their goals.
Yeah, it's just a really user-friendly game asset, or skins that you actually have some real rights of ownership over.
Yeah, exactly. Because, well, let's take like Steam for example. Like they have skins in a million different games, like Counter-Strike, Dota. Like they have these digital assets, but well, they're not NFTs, right? But what if they were? It's already like a part of the gaming community's world to, like trade these assets. And I think if we make the user experience good enough, it's really just going to be a seamless transition to like actual digital ownership, of these items, of these skins, of these NFTs. And it takes one or like two big, like you said, like one or two big games in this like crypto space, in Web3 space is going to blow up. And then that's going to be the expectation moving forward, for everyone, that these games and like new games or even old games need to be adopted to the space. And well, at least that's the hope, right? So yeah, I think those are good points. So do you think, well, it's exactly why I hate like these things like FTX recently happening, because it seems that we're moving in such a good direction already. Like you mentioned, Meta and Instagram and things like that are trying to really, make this community just available to everyone. And then we have some news like this that come out, and then that just makes people completely distrust the space. That people who haven't already joined, they think, oh, these billions of dollars just disappeared from, an exchange, so why the hell should I, join an exchange and things like that. So yeah, it really makes me, quite annoyed that it's really just, one step forward, two steps back sometimes in this space. But I feel like once we sort out these things, and once this stops happening, it's really gonna make this space move forward so fast. And so do you think that we're really at the bottom now, or can like even worse news come in that are gonna bring down Bitcoin to like below 10,000? Like, what do you think?
I mean, I wouldn't want to make specific price predictions, but it does feel like maybe some of the potential contagion of like FTX and Alameda counterparties might not have played out yet. I think like when we saw UST go down, it wasn't like everything happened at once. Even like the DPEG happened over like 3 days, and then I think you had I forget the timeline a little bit. Like the 3AC blow up was maybe like 2-3 weeks later.
Yeah, like one or 2 weeks later. Yeah,
1 or 2 weeks.
I think so. Yeah.
Your time perception slows down when all that stuff's happening. But like, yeah, I mean, like this is still so fresh, right? This is like we're like day 3 of CZ and SBF taunting each other on Twitter.
Yeah. Do you think this is worse than Luna?
I mean it's similar magnitude, probably worse in terms of like global perception outside of crypto, and the fact that it's kind of like just layered on top so soon after just rolls it into like a very bad 2022. I think, well, I mean, actually Luna did have Terra had like some like stadium sponsorships and stuff, not quite as high profile as FTX, but there's some parallels there actually in terms of how retail, non-crypto retail was heavily targeted in the marketing, which there's definitely some parallels. And then you could say 3AC blowing up has parallels with Alameda as a market maker also blowing up.
True, because yeah, like you mentioned, well, Luna was just one. Well, it was a few coins, of course. Like it was Luna and then UST, but it was still people could see the reason why it happened, right? Like the explanation was that it was this, algorithm that was, doomed to fail from the start. It was just a time bomb, a question of time when it's just gonna fall, and this thing set it off, and then everyone lost their money. It was like a sensible explanation, right? Like people could read that.
It was easy to argue in hindsight, at least, that it was obvious, and people had been debating it for months or years, right?
Yeah,
quite publicly.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like in some, well, let's say just take a retail person, in their mind, it made sense, right? And they just had to avoid like things like this in the future, just avoid stable coins that are algorithm based, right? But then you take this FTX, huge exchange. It was like number 3, right, or like number 2 in the world, some sort of that. But well, basically, it was a top exchange, right? And what they see now is that it was just a complete scam, right? Like they lost all of their users' money, and they made some leverages they shouldn't have made with Alameda, and it was just basically a fraud, right? So that's a magnitude worse than just a stable coin that crashed. Even though Luna was, I think the total loss from the Luna collapse in like dollar amount, it was much bigger than this currently, at least. But it seems that this is somehow worse, right? Because this really makes the sentiment just terrible for all exchanges and for the. What do you think, Linus? Maybe you have something to add.
I think, it's all based on trust. This much more hurts the trust part when you see, exchange that had, a really, really good image of itself to collapse in like 2 days. It's a thing that it's not the same as algorithmic, currency, because you can say that was, somewhat algorithm or one person that did that, but for an exchange to actually go through it is a bit in another magnitude. But I do understand, the level of damage in dollars was much higher with the Terra crash. So yeah.
Yeah.
And currently looking at the markets and looking even if you could open up, Tether at the moment, it's like even now moving a bit off its peg. So it's like, wow, so scary to see. I wouldn't want to.
That's actually true. Wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that to happen, because that's where the trust lies, So
yeah, I've just checked now. Tether was 1 hour ago. It was at 0.9818, the bottom. But Tether, as it's like a little bit scary, it's a bit sketchy. Like the background of Tether is a bit sketchy, to say the least. I think if it held out during the Luna crash, it should be fine. Hopefully, should be fine now, because during the Luna crash, I think it went down to like 96 or even 95 cents for like a few short seconds. So yeah, that was some craziness. So I feel like since the market is just so volatile at the moment, it only makes sense, for people to just speculate and cash out of Tether, cash out of exchanges, incredible volumes moving in, like Tether crashing, Tether being so yeah. So it seems that
it's interesting, kind of to your other point though, right? Like on one level, the Luna setup, it was like a relatively transparent Ponzi, for lack of a better term. FTX, is deceptive, fraud, very non-transparent, and relatively surprising. If USDT goes down, I mean, that would be absolutely shocking. But at the same time, the controversy's been there for so long. To some extent, you'd kind of argue, well, people have been kind of saying, like, warning about this for so long. Is it really that much of a shock if something did happen? God forbid.
True. Yeah, but I feel like it would, at least at this point, like some of it would already be priced in, right? Because this is like as low as we've been this year. This is like the sentiment is just rock bottom. So I feel like there would be some heavier and like more obvious warning signs, because just it depegging a little bit by a few cents, like it's a part that would make, well, of course, like it's a bit scary, but it seems that there would be a lot of other warning signs coming, especially from like insiders, right? Especially from like insider, because I doubt if USDT were to like have the same fate as like FTX or Luna, I doubt that insiders wouldn't have a chance to like get out and get the news out before it actually like starts. I feel like it would need some sort of a spark from the inside or from the outside, somehow from like leaks, to like actually start happening, just like FTX happened, like with CZ talking about it, and then a lot of other people talking about it.
People have been trying to whistleblow it for years, though, right?
Yeah, and so far I guess nothing happened. So
yeah.
That's true. But if
have you had Binance? If you had CZ tweet now, hey guys, you should move your money into BUSD, get out of USDT.
No, I'm pretty sure
that would tip it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he would tweet something like, if that were to happen, it would be like, Binance is looking into like delisting USDT in like 3 or 4 months, like 3 to 6 months. We're lowering like our exposure to USDT, and then that would probably just set off like a catastrophe. But again, it would be so bad. I don't think literally not a single person in this space would benefit from this, except maybe if someone, I guess, started shorting it. But like, yeah, I don't see any reason for something like that to happen at this point in time. Like, again, it's crypto, so things happen without logic and reason all of the time. But still, like, I'm trying to be hopeful here. So yeah. So I think we can do like a few more minutes, and maybe we can wrap up the hour. It's been a wonderful discussion, and I was thinking maybe we should do something fun for the end. I'm thinking, what if we just give like predictions for the end of this year, not financial advice, but just what do you think will happen? Like, how will this play out? It's like a fun guessing game, right? Because anything can happen. But like, what do you think will happen with the whole Solana unstaking? Because I've heard some rumors of Solana like having a huge amount coming from unstaking that might be dumped on the market. I'm not sure. Like, it may be already past the time it should. Again, not sure, but yeah. So like, Lewis, what do you think? What are your end of year predictions for the whole crypto market? Of course, not financial advice for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be too much of a pessimist or an optimist here. I mean, I think that big Sol unstaking, I think, has happened now. Apparently, half of it was just that data center kicking a bunch of validators off, but possibly half of it is also Alameda getting ready to market sell. So holding my breath there. I think obviously we're going to have a lot of volatility the next few weeks. Could have some additional blowups. Could see prices dump much lower. I think. I think if you're a believer in the space, and I think there's a strong case to be a believer in the space, given the amount of talent and good legitimate projects and legitimate people building stuff in the space, that crypto's not going away. It will come back. If you do have any liquid assets on the sideline, that will be probably the so-called generational buying opportunity sometime between now and the end of the year. I don't think we bounce back super fast, but if we can flesh out the worst of it relatively quickly, I think that's going to be healthier for the long term, and you can hopefully see a more steady recovery through the course of next year, rather than crazy volatility sticking around.
All right, perfect. And Linus, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Lewis. Current market shows that it's really, really unpredictable, and in upcoming few weeks, I think everybody should be cautious about moving their stuff here. But it's a big discount. Looking back like 1 year ago when BTC was like around 70K, and now it had dropped to like 15K yesterday. So I do believe that eventually it's inevitable for it to go back to at least the same value. So this is a big discount but that nobody knows in what time that can happen. So I do think everything has to go in these waves at this moment, at least. So we have to go through it. We have to be careful not to, be too exposed to very high risk in investing. But with this high risk might come a high reward, So yeah.
Exactly. And as from my side, first of all, I want to say a friendly reminder, or not a reminder, but get your assets off of crypto exchanges. It's just a simple concept. Just hold them in your cold storage wallet, preferably, or at least not on a centralized exchange, no matter what it is, no matter like how strong it is. Over this past year, like, people have learned this lesson time and time again, and like even me, I held a little bit of assets on Kraken, and even Kraken, with its good reputation, like it kind of broke withdrawals for a few hours 2 days ago. So that was kind of a scary moment for me still, but just take this as a lesson to just get better at this space. And I sort of agree with Lewis and Dennis as well, that like these prices aren't gonna pump really fast. I would be hopeful that on Christmas in December we have some sort of a relief rally. At least maybe we can get Bitcoin back to like 20,000, hopefully. That would be good considering what happened now. And I really hope that like this whole thing with Alameda and FTX has already mostly played out. Of course, we're gonna have like some news here and there that projects that were completely exposed to FTT or Solana or things like that, maybe we have some bad news still, but hopefully the worst of it has passed, and we just have the time and opportunity now to build into the next year. Hopefully have a good Christmas, and just rock on once we get into a bull run, maybe next year, or hopefully next year. Like, I'm trying to be optimistic, but it might take a little longer than that, but we'll see. It's time to build. So Lewis, could you just shout out Catheon Gaming socials, what you want to say, Soul Chicks, things like that? Where can people find you, things like that?
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, I mean, we've got our Catheon Gaming Twitter handle. You'll find, I think, from there our Discord and Telegram groups. We've kind of got separate community pages set up for Soul Chicks as well. On Twitter, we've got some great games coming out as well across the platform. We've got Altruverse coming up soon. We've got games like Angry Moles, War of Gamma, that are like in that early release stage. So come check them out, come play some games, have some fun, take your mind off the price charts for a little while.
Exactly, because when a game is fun, you shouldn't care about the price. Like, people play games anyway, so if there's an added bonus of crypto, well, in these days, in these types of times, you can just take your mind off of that and just enjoy the games for what they are. And Linus, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I do believe everyone needs to take a break from this and do go and try out some games or other ways to relieve your stress.
Try the Ertha beta, learn some things, learn some chemistry, some mining, and things like that. It's a good way to just really take your mind off of those things and stay somewhat sane and not go crazy when things like this happen. So as always, you can find us on ErthaGame, twitter.com/ErthaGame. Join our Discord, discord.gg/Ertha. We can chat after this if you want to come ask us questions. We'll be there. We will answer you. And this was Erthacast number 4. hopefully we can do this more often now, maybe every week. We'll see. And yeah, take care, guys. It was wonderful having you on. And thanks for our viewers for tuning in. See you next time. This is the Earth of Metaverse, signing out.